The sort of dystopian future sketched out in movies like Terminator is closer than you might think, and we have a couple of updates on that. Not only are we now seeing fully autonomous, kill-capable drones deployed in war zones, but also we have some what seem like pathetically last-ditch efforts for the people running all of these big AI companies to put maybe a few safeguards in place in case the AI tries to take over everything. So we're gonna start with the former of those two. Ukrainian developers have created and now deployed drones that can attack Russian forces entirely without a human being involved. This is not a thing where they're being piloted by another person. They can move around, they can pilot themselves, and they can make the decision and carry out the attacks fully autonomously. Here is a photo of these drones. They're called Saker Scouts. It's a multi-drone system that has scout drones and it has attack drones and those sorts of things. But here's a photo of one of them. They can navigate without GPS. They can work in areas where communication is blocked, which is important because apparently the Russian capacity for like blanking out communications and GPS and things like that is quite sophisticated. They came into service last month. They carry 3 kilograms of bombs to a range of around 12 kilometers, and they've already proven themselves to be very deadly. This war in general has been really a war of drones. Most of them though are piloted. They have a camera, they have a person who is remotely controlling them. This is a different sort of thing, okay? And a lot of people are worried about this level of autonomy and want to ban this. We have occasionally on the show talked about Stop Killer Robots. It's an organization that's trying to get people to take this threat seriously. And one of the representatives of the director of studies at the think tank center talked to Forbes about this, saying that the pace of technology now far outstrips the pace of diplomacy. Operational pressures are likely to push both sides in the direction of autonomous weapons. And you can totally imagine in this war, with Ukraine being so hard pressed over the last year and a half, that they're gonna use whatever they think might work. But that's why we have to be preemptively strong in setting regulations for this, because they're gonna be desperate. Well, Russia also should be desperate. They've lost hundreds of thousands of people, so God only knows what they'll use. And right now it might be constrained to Ukraine and Russia. But could we see this sort of thing in the Middle East? We know Israel deployed some drones against Iran. Those, I believe, were fully controlled by a human, but in the future they might not be. This is a thing that is not purely hypothetical. It is not a thing merely of movies. It is already being deployed on the battlefield, and we need to take it seriously. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Listen, in order for the damage report to keep on going, we need viewers like you to become a member on YouTube. Can you click the join button on YouTube today? Thank you. Sharon, what do you make of this?
Look, when you start, you had me when you said that the drone can make its own decision. Okay, that's a recipe for disaster. And you could say, well, humans programmed it. Well, humans are making mistakes and dropping bombs on food aid workers. Then who would we charge with war crimes if something went down? The robot? It's just a no-go. At some point, just because you can produce it, just because you have the technological capability, doesn't mean you should. It's like, weren't there movies where the robots turned? I mean, stop, okay? In this case, we do need to probably follow Hollywood's lead and say, that's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out. Of course, I guess they had their Hollywood ending.
Your point about who would be charged, I think, is a great point. I mean, we already know when an individual commits a crime, as long as they're not rich, you can charge them with something. When a corporation commits a crime, it's not a person anymore. No person is responsible. So again, is it gonna be like the leader of the military of the area? Is it gonna be the company that made them? Likely it's gonna be nobody. And the only reason I'm not worried more about this component of it is that basically nobody gets charged with war crimes now anyway. But it's gonna be even harder in the future. Also, by the way, so what if one of these things thinks that a group of like Ukrainian civilians or Russians or something? Could they attack? Could the Russians disguise their vehicles as looking like Ukrainians to avoid it? What is the actual thought process? What is the algorithm here? Again, they should not be making the decisions. This is literally out of Terminator, okay? And not just robots in general, literally the hunter-killer flying robots that they used. This is what it is to some extent. Now it's just a bomb, it's like a suicide drone, but they could easily put guns on these in the future. It just seems like a recipe for absolute disaster. And again, AI is the thing, it's not going away. We can and should be careful in the way it's deployed. And right now, by the way, there was a new landmark, we're gonna end on this. There was a new landmark agreement that was made by some of the biggest tech companies in the world. including Microsoft, Amazon, and OpenAI, which is already having to contend with Scarlett Johansson. So they've said there's so much concern over the ability of these things to potentially cause harm that we're going to institute protections. They're going to be voluntary protections that they themselves come up with. Do we think that that's the thing that's going to stop the apocalypse? Maybe like the governments of the world could get involved. Maybe the UN could have something to say. I don't think it should be up to whether like Sam Altman thinks that they'll still make enough profit if they do this. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.